Hello everyone, welcome to today's Knowledge webinar, 6 Reasons Why Traditional CAD Slows You Down. In today's Knowledge webinar, we'll explore the 6 biggest struggles faced by designers and discuss how modern cloud-based product development tools can now overcome them. Today's webinar presenter, Mike LaFleche, also known as the Professor, is a fixture in the 3D CAD community. Mike not only has experience as a SolidWorks trainer, but he has experience with a myriad of different CAD systems. He's just the expert you want to listen to if you're questioning your more traditional design tools. And now let me tell you a little bit about NoVeg. NoVeg is changing the way designers purchase 3D software. Since we're offering a lot of choices, more freedom in your, ordering, and we also give you advice, and the service is impeccable. Check us out at noveg.com. And I want to remind everybody that this webinar is being recorded, and later you can find it on YouTube and Vimeo. Just search for NoVeg. And now, without further ado, I will share Mike's screen. Take it away, Mike. And
Fantastic.
for everybody else, enjoy.
Thank you so much for the great introduction. And I am so excited to be partnering here with NoVeg, well-respected company, and you have lots of great people that follow you, and I'm so happy to share the news about Onshape with your community of users. We live in a multi-CAD world. NoVeg, is able to provide, a number of great solutions, that meet the needs of very special, applications, and Onshape is one of them. And I love Onshape. I've used many CAD systems over the years as well. With SolidWorks, worked with them for about 15 years, and I've used various other systems throughout my career. But I've been here at Onshape now for 6 going on 7 years now, as the product has been rolled out across the world. And you can see that, even though this might be your first time looking at Onshape, this isn't our first time building CAD software. So Onshape was built by the same people that originally built SolidWorks many, many years ago. Our founding team, our CEO is John Hirschdick, the famous legend, in the CAD industry. But many other people came along, for this journey to build a new CAD system based on what we've been hearing from not only SolidWorks users, but other CAD users around the world, what their issues were. And we built a new system to help address these problems in a modern way. Software as a service, nothing to install. So we'll get into all that. So here's the agenda here today. We'll talk about the 6 reasons why, the former kind of traditional CAD systems will slow you down compared to a full software as a service approach. We'll give you a quick demonstration, of course, of Onshape and really hammer in the 6 reasons why Onshape is faster, right? So, and it's really easy to get started with Onshape. It's just a snap of a finger, and you have access to an account. It's really amazing. So this is what we are hearing from customers. I'm going to whiteboard this out here for you, okay? So let's imagine, if you will, we might be bi-coastal, San Francisco, Boston. We have 4 different people here doing work, design work, let's say, using a CAD system. And these 4 people, they really, really care about speed, innovation, and efficiency, right? That's always on the top of their minds when developing products. They want to make the best stuff as fast as possible. But anytime you go below this dashed line that we've drawn here across the screen, that gets in the way of those 3 tenets at the top. So number 1 and 2, which I'll dive into on detail as we go through the presentation, is dealing with this installed software paradigm that we have currently with everything except Onshape. So yeah, you have CAD, PDM, I'll dive into this. Then we have the versions of the CAD that you have to worry about too. 2017, 2020, they're incompatible. If you can't go open a 2020 file in 2017, right? And there's new versions every year. So it gets to be very unmanageable when you're dealing with your extended supply chain. But the other things that get in the way are the actual files themselves. And this is something that you just wouldn't think about, right? Every day you go file open, browse for your files, C:\this, X:\that. You might have a PDM that you sign into and you check out a file. All of these things are not helping you design. Of course, they're organizational things that need to be there for building your designs in a Windows file system usually. And anytime you work with a file, you're creating a file copy essentially. Now you can work over the network, but that's usually not recommended because the files are big, packets get dropped, things like that. So what people usually do is they take a file, copy it to their desktop, work on it locally. It's faster that way. But even with a PDM system, you're making file copies. Oh, let me just go back to previous slide here. Sorry, just hit the wrong button. Slide back. There we are. So I'll just catch ourselves up here. So you have file servers, you have PDM systems that you install. By the way, PDM systems are big file copy machines, essentially. So every time you quote unquote check out a file to work on it, it takes the file out, copies it. I'll get into detail on that in a few minutes. I've implemented hundreds of PDM systems over the years. If you saw a photo of me, it's where, you've seen I'm quite bald now. I've lost all my hair from pulling it out, dealing with the issues of installed PDM. People are more and more going to the cloud, right? And cloud drives, Google Drive, Dropbox, OneDrive from Microsoft, right? But even those are creating file copies between the cloud and your local files, your local file system on your computer. You're never working on the cloud, even though you think you are. It's copying a file down to your desktop and trying to synchronize it at a certain polling sequence, right? So, this also gives you two other issues. That it's a slow and serial process. Only one person at a time can work. And you might ask yourself, well, why would I want to work more than one person at a time on a design? It's just not possible in a Windows file-based system, or any file-based system for that matter. So I'll get into what Onshape did to solve this issue. So let's just dive into that topic number one of installed CAD software. And you take a look at what you need to deploy a CAD system at either a single organization, like, let's just pretend we have Boston and San Francisco for the sake of argument for our design offices, right? So this map right here is straight from the help index of a competitive CAD and PDM system. And you can see, you install CAD workstations, you connect them via your local area network. You have database servers and archive servers that keep the files in the database in order if you're using a PDM system. And then you need to go over the outside network, over the wide area network, to other offices. So you have, maybe San Francisco, maybe even have another office in London. And all these servers have to synchronize all those files as well, gigabytes and terabytes of files. And you schedule them overnight. Maybe they replicate, maybe they don't. How many times I've got calls at midnight saying, where's my files? They haven't been updated or replicated, or it's too slow to go over the wire to replicate things. So all of these things, and there's routers and switches and VPNs, all of these things you have to worry about as a person, who's an engineer doing your work. Now, of course, if you're a larger company, you might have a CAD manager or a team of CAD managers. I was actually the head CAD manager at a company who had 10 CAD managers working alongside with me to keep our system of 200 seats of CAD and PDM up and running. Okay, seems like a lot of expense and effort, doesn't it? Especially in a world now where we have Office 365, Google Docs, just sign in and go, salesforce.com in San Francisco, right? So all of these things are here and you don't need any infrastructure. You just sign in and go. So it seems really backward to have to deal with all of this. But this is what everybody who is not using Onshape does. It's really amazing. So just think of that iceberg metaphor, iceberg right ahead, from Titanic, right? So you have the stuff that you see above the iceberg, which like the price of the software, and you need a CAD workstation, but all the stuff below the water is this stuff, this monstrosity of an image with all the network maps here. Then, to add insult to injury, you have to install the CAD software and keep the CAD software up to date on your local machine. So this is a big slowdown, right? There's version issues, right? So if you don't install it the proper way, or you need to work with people that are on different versions of the CAD software that you're using, you're not going to be able to communicate very easily. You have to send them, if you're going to try to send them the native file, right? Whatever the format of the native CAD system is. So you'll end up sending a step file, and you'll send a file copy out, and then you have a file. But nothing is compatible in the backwards way, right? You can't open a 2020 file in 2017. It's just not a thing that you can do. They have these things called AnyCAD, which will allow you to bring in the geometry, but not really make any changes to it. So they've really kind of put some fancy marketing terms over this issue, but it's really a bad, embarrassing issue for the CAD industry that we have. This is also true, believe it or not, for CAD viewers. So not only do you have to install a CAD system, you have to install a CAD viewer on your computer as well. And these CAD viewers have the same problem. You can't open an old file or a new file in the older version. And not everybody upgrades at the same time. They choose when they want to upgrade because it's a big, laborsome expense. When I was at that last company that I mentioned I was the CAD manager at, we only upgraded every other year. And we did that, and we did a lot of testing. It was a 6-month process to go from testing to roll out and deployment. And then there were always issues, even on the full deployment, even with all the testing. Sites were down for several hours. Hopefully this doesn't look poorly upon my CAD management capabilities. It's just things that happen that you can't anticipate in the real life deployment. So these things are all things that our customers have had to deal with over the years with traditional CAD. And that really slows you down. Of course, Onshape doesn't have any of this. You never have to think about this again, and I'll show you that in the system. In fact, let me just hop in just really quickly. Here I am inside of Onshape. I did not have to install anything on my computer. By the way, I'm on a Mac computer. You can see this right here, just a MacBook, right? So you can run this on Windows, Mac, Linux. You could probably run it on a toaster with a Raspberry Pi device. You can run this on almost any type of modern computing appliance because it's just running in a web browser. I'm running in a Chrome type web browser right now, and the graphics are being rendered on my local MacBook. So I'll get into what that all means in a minute. This even works on your phone, right? So this is actually my phone, same model. I have 2 people in the same model at once. You can see the list here. Mike, the manager. If I zoom up here, there's me, there's my bald head. And then there's Debbie, the designer, who's also, the person on the phone, essentially. So I'll get into a demonstration of this in just a minute. But everybody in the whole world is on the same version of Onshape. And we roll out version updates every 3 weeks. In fact, there might be an update during this webcast, which would be unbelievable if it happened. But I will not have to shut anything down. Everything will just be up to date, and I'll have new features without having to do a single thing. Okay, so it's really amazing. Let me just go back to the slideshow here. The other problem is the file issues, right? Data is being shared in these CAD systems with files, right? So how many times have you seen this kind of error message? Unable to locate the file, somebody moved the file from one folder to another without maybe telling you or doing it the right way, and it can't find it. You got to browse the file, you got to make all these decisions. You may have to hit this button hundreds of times when you're opening an assembly. This is not right. It's not right. I don't know any other way of saying it, but you just got to deal with it. And people deal with this every day, and they don't understand that there could be a better way. But there wasn't one until Onshape, right? So, we'll talk about that as we go through the demonstration. People also build these elaborate folder structures. Here I have a Mac Finder window because I don't have a Windows computer anymore. Really, I don't use it anyway. It's It's kind of in the closet. I don't really touch it anymore. But I have my MacBook. I'm a photographer on the side, so that's what I use for my photography. So it makes a lot of sense to use a Mac. You can see the folder structure here. People are going to create, a folder system. Maybe they have the final version. Maybe they have the final version. They have all these copies of files floating all over the place. So that leads you to ask, where is the latest version of the file? Especially, this might be fine if you're a single person design consultant and you know how your data is organized. But if you go to a company, this can get messy very easily. So that's when people start investing in PDM systems. We'll get into that in a minute. People actually see these messages pop up all the time, right? Somebody else has that file open. What do I do? It might even ask you to make a file copy if you want to make a separate copy of a file to work on it. But that's like the worst thing you can do, because now you have two copies. You got to, negotiate which one is the right one. Engineer A may have made some changes. Engineer B may have made another change. Then you have to balance the book somehow, and you're going to have to redo work again. So it's really a disastrous situation. And then I talked about PDM, right? The product data management systems that are out there. So, checking out files, it's going to copy all these files. You have to deal with all these hieroglyphics and symbols, trying to figure out how to get a file out of the system. All you want to do is open a file and work on it and release it to Rev A for production. And you have to go through all these switches and checkboxes. It feels like you're flying the space shuttle. It really shouldn't be this hard, right? And that's what we're hearing from our customers over the years before developing Onshape. Another kind of issue that's out there with some of these install-based CAD systems, and I'm not picking on just one. This is true for almost any software that's installed on your computer. If you don't have everything perfectly set up and just right with the right graphics card and the right drivers and the right antivirus software and the right version of Windows and the right version of SQL and the right version of Office, I could go on, you are going to encounter a crash on your computer. And when you crash, you lose work because, it might have been 7 changes since you hit the save button, Control S on your keyboard. That is really not something that you should tolerate, right? And some people crash more than once a day. Some people might not crash once a week. Maybe it's once a month, but it will happen and you will lose work and it will be frustrating and you'll want to pull out your hair. This one's, kind of an embarrassing message because it's an error on the error report, which actually happens. It's like Inception, that Leo DiCaprio movie. Speaking of another Leo DiCaprio movie, we've gone from Titanic to, to Inception now. So we have these issues with install-based software. And why would I bring this up? It's because the architecture of what Onshape is built is fault tolerant. You would never notice if there was a crash, essentially, because we're running everything as parallel services on a very advanced data stack on Amazon Web Services and servers all over the world. So if Parasolid, which is our modeling engine, crashes for whatever reason, can happen, the user would never notice. It's just going to roll over to the next Parasolid engine and continue the operation to perform the extrusion or revolve or whatever you're doing in the CAD system. So we've built the fault tolerant system, and in Onshape, every single change is saved. Every edit you make, you never have to worry about it. You never hit the save button. There isn't one. You won't find one. We have versions and revisions, and you can label things in the database, but there's no need to ever worry about // anymore. Okay. And by the way, these CAD workstations are usually only running on Windows nowadays. Back in the old days when PTC originally started with Pro Engineer and stuff, that was on Unix, and that kind of faded away in favor of Windows because it was more cost effective, easier to maintain. But now, people are running Chromebooks, people are running Macs. If you go to schools nowadays, you won't find a Windows computer. That's ridiculous. All the kids are coming out with Chromebooks or MacBooks, and installing software is a foreign thing. They just don't get that. I want to open my browser and go to Google Docs. There I am, right? This is the file copy issue that I'm going to talk about here. This file copy issue is really something that comes from how we used to design before CAD existed. If you take a look at this drafting room from, let's say, the 1970s, you have everybody, each drafter is doing their own design on a copy of a drawing with their triangles and drafting machines and power erasers and erasure brushes and all that. They get a drawing. Let's say they want to make a change to a drawing. They go up to the front of the room. They talk to the administrator who's maintaining all the records up at the top of the room. And she would go in and make a copy of the drawing, put the copy in the file drawer and give the engineer the original so they can take their pencil and eraser and make the changes or make new things. And then the engineer would give them the changes, and then the administrator would go in and set a record in a data card somewhere. It looks like a library card. You have an engineering manager over here chatting away with another person here, and he's the one in charge of doing the design, in charge of the design room and signing the work and things like that. So we had this environment. And what did we do when we invented CAD many years ago? We just kind of duplicated that process with file servers, databases, and file copies, right? The administrator became a server. Of course, you still have managers and people involved telling it what to do, but that's the filing cabinet is now the server, and then the server is doling out file copies via either file systems or PDM, and everybody's working on their local copies in all by themselves, right? And only one person at a time can work on these files. Now, people have tried to use the cloud for this, like putting your files in Google Drive, but it's still the same problem. It's still, you're just moving the file servers off of your premises, putting the file servers in the cloud, but everybody's still managing files locally, working in isolation. And we thought that that was just, not something that was tenable anymore, especially with, people want to, work faster, right? Competitive markets, we have a worldwide market now where we didn't back 20, 30, 40 years ago. We're competing with countries in different areas. Each country competes with another country, of course. I'm not going to pick on any one, but we need to work faster to compete in today's marketplace, to gain market share, right? That's what people do. And this file-based approach only allows people to do one change at a time, one person at a time, I should say. So Ed, the engineer, makes his changes. Doug, the designer, makes his changes. Emily, the electrical engineer, has to wait until Doug is finished with his changes, right? And the longer you wait to make the changes, the further away it is where if you find a problem, you have to go back to Ed. You've lost all that time and you have to kind of start and do work over again. This also pushes back when you can start sharing with suppliers. You don't share with your supplier earlier because you don't want to send them something that's wrong, right? But in the world today, we have Agile methodology and processes where you can actually do teamwork now. Onshape has kind of built that in at the core of our system, right? So, with Onshape, this is what you get. It's not only a CAD system, but it's a data management system. It's a data management system that includes workflow and communication tools. For example, if I click on here, communication tools like you'd see in Google Docs, live comments, follow mode, you can see other people in the document. So it's much more modern feeling, but also highly collaborative, right? So we'll get into all that. The workflow is built in to the system, right? You have default workflows. We have several flavors of Onshape where you can even customize the workflows to meet your exact corporate needs. And these workflows will work on your iPad, your Mac, your Windows PC, your phone. So you could be on the beach and doing approvals or drawing things if you really wanted to. All you need is an internet connection, and a small one at that. It doesn't have to be anything fancy. Even your 3 or 4G on your phone will suffice. And I'll explain how that works as we go forward here. We have even task management capabilities here. Assigning work can be done where that's not typically something you have in a PDM. You usually have to buy an extra system on top of PDM called PLM to do these kind of things. But that's just part of Onshape. We have apps that work with Onshape as well. So we have different companies that have built software that plug right into Onshape. Maybe I'll show an example of one today, of one that just released a new update today. I really like it, so I might show it. So it's really, really interesting, the ability to go in and just sign into a web browser. You know, here I am, right, in my web browser doing the slideshow in PowerPoint, right? I'm not using the installed version. And I just have one tab for PowerPoint. Here's my tab for Onshape, right? Doesn't matter what browser, as long as it's not Internet Explorer. We just ask you any browser except that. It's not really supported. It, you know, with the the new tools out there, but Edge, Firefox, Chrome, Safari, they all work just fine. All right. So what I'm going to do is give you a small demonstration here. I might not do this whole thing. You know, I only have really about 20 minutes or so to give a full demonstration, but I like coffee, and I'll build a little coffee grinder here for you, just to kind of give you a flavor of how this thing works, right? We have style components, mechanical components. You know, we need different versions of it, like a high end or an economy version. And we're going to have a design team, you know, some in Boston, some in San Francisco, some in London, maybe have a mold design house, you know, that's going to be part of this, to quote on the molding aspect of this, right? So let's just dive right in. You know, here's Onshape. When you sign in as a named user here. Here's Mike, the manager, signing in. And you can see, you know, recent documents, projects you're working on, documents. You know, here's an example of a leaf blower, so we can build very substantial and advanced systems, right? We can, you know, perform section views very quickly and easily. You know, here in the system here, let me just pick a plane. There we are. So you can see, you know, it's got the full engine, you know, in here. This engine works. You know, I could start spinning the crankshaft on this thing, and you see the fan moving and all that. So, you know, it's very easy to go in and work within the system. I'm just on a MacBook. There's no special graphics card on my computer. I mean, I have a MacBook Pro, which has a Radeon 4GB card, right? But that's really the only thing that's special, you know, on my MacBook here. You can run this on a Chromebook without a graphics card. You know, the bigger the assembly, the better you might want to have for graphics or something. But that's really the only thing. System requirements are very light. You won't even find a system requirements page on the Onshape website. So it works really nicely with complicated parts and assemblies. Of course, detailed drawings can be generated with bills of materials and all that as well. This whole time, as we're working in the system in Onshape, you get interesting data analytics from the system as well. So I can see where people are opening up documents from in my company, right? So I have a company here called Sassify Systems for a demo kind of account. I can see user activity, releases that are waiting to be approved. You know, I can see 244 drawings were made, I have 53 users. So all sorts of information can be gleaned from the work being done. So let's build this coffee grinder. And I have a document here loaded up called the coffee grinder. A document in Onshape can have multiple items in it. So you can see here I have the picture of my kitchen counter with the coffee grinder, finished one here. And here's the beginning, you know, of the coffee grinder right here. So there's a part studio, an assembly. I might have a folder for some drawings. So a small product can be built in one document. Something like that leaf blower would be built across many different documents that all kind of report up to one another. We teach this all in our training classes that are available on the website. So go over here. This should look like a very common parametric feature-based system, except much simpler looking, but it has all the power that you would expect. For example, if I want to go in, throw a fillet radius, you know, I just go in and stick it in there, right? 1/2 inch fillet radius. Put it on both those fillets. It adds it to the feature tree. Nothing too crazy right there. But this is where it gets really cool. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to make this window a little smaller. And I have Debbie's iPhone here on the screen. This is the live iPhone. I have an app that lets me broadcast it to the screen. And I want to share Debbie into this design to help work with it. I'm going to ask her a question. I'm going to add a comment, and I'm going to say, Debbie, can you chat style with me? Right, and I can assign that to Debbie, just like that. And you're going to see a message appear on Debbie's iPhone. There it is. Now you can just go ahead and click that message as Debbie, and there's the there's the comment right there. And Debbie is in this design right here with me, and she's going to say, sure thing, just give me the edit rights to the document. And now I'm just showing off because I have, the text in the text to speech there. But of course, that's already here, the reply right there. We can even do this thing called the follow mode. So if Mike wants to show me some things as Debbie, I can have Debbie just click on Mike right here, and anything Mike does on his screen, Debbie is going to see the point of view located here. So great design, collaboration, and communication tools right here. And as changes are happening, we're going to see them update. Now, if I hit the share screen, anybody who is an engineer, I have a team of engineers that Debbie's a member of, can edit this. So she can already edit this. And she can edit this on her phone. And she can actually go in and see that feature tree on her phone and make the edit. So, maybe she wants that to be 3/4 of an inch, and it's not going to be a standard cross section. It'll be a curvature continuous thing, like Apple's products are all curvature continuous. And Debbie just made that change, and Mike sees it real time. So what we've done here is just simply removed 5 or 6 different steps from how you would normally do this in a traditional CAD system, right? You would have to send Debbie the file through some mechanism, whether it be PDM, Dropbox, whatever system you're going to use. You have to take that file. She opens it. She has to have a CAD system installed. She has to open the file. Then you'd have to set up a Teams meeting or a GoToMeeting or something to do a screen share to show what's going on and what you need to do with it. We can just do it right here, and it's all in the system tracked and managed. And Debbie was able to make the change simultaneously. Just like in Google Docs, you could have multiple people in Google Doc working together. And it has a design history record of everything that you're doing here on the side, this version history panel. Mike made this change. Debbie made this change at 2:31 p.m. today. You can label versions in time, like here we are, version 1 in our development process. Very, very easy to do. You can even branch off to try out different designs, different design iterations. So Mike's interested in design for manufacturability, and Debbie is going to be interested in the style. So we'll just do that. Actually, we'll just do one more branch. I sent a disturbance in the force. I bet we're doing the upgrade right now. All right, so we're going to say branch for the style. Right, so we can work on different branches, just like, software developers do all the time nowadays, right? It's really amazing. They use things like GitHub and they branch off their designs. This is an Agile design technique, and we fully support this 100% at a feature-based level. It's so nice to be able to try out and iterate often on your design ideas. So maybe Mike will just take care of the style at this point, just to kind of go really fast here. So, I have a sketch here, kind of showing the shape that I'm looking to place on the design. And I would just go in and create some sort of, split using that sketch. And this is not a foreign environment, right? This is all basic stuff that you guys would do in any parametric CAD system, parametric sketches, split faces, maybe you would even offset these faces on the bottom, by some amount based on a variable. I'll say thickness times 2. I have a variable in my tree that I can use. So very quick and easy. We have that here, and we'll even edit this to make this a variable radius fillet, make it even swankier. We'll call that 3/4 of an inch or 3/8 of an inch over here with a smooth transition. So we have this change over here. Maybe on the phone, I'll go into the design for manufacturability piece right here, and I will go in and, I have a surface model that I've drew in here earlier, and I'm going to replace one face with another face, just like that. And I will just go in and split the part in two now. So I'm going to take this part and split it with a plane that I had here earlier. And now I have two parts, right? And I might just hide, the surface just to kind of get it out of the way. Hit the little eyeball right there. But it's created two different parts here, which I could rename. This one on the top is going to be the cover, and this other one right here, part one, is going to be the base, right? So you would never dream of renaming parts in another CAD system because it would really screw everything up. All the file references would be lost, essentially, and you'd have to perform neurosurgery to get it put back together. But there we are. And we have two different branches that we're doing work on. That's why we haven't seen the changes update, but we can compare them. I can compare the style against the design for manufacturability. And you'll see a nice comparison report showing us the differences between the designs. And if you like both of them and you want to move forward with them, you can actually take all of these great ideas and merge them together. I'll take everything from DFM and everything from style. There it is. Now they're both here together. Names are correct. Features are all in here. You might even go in and finish this off here. Just drop in a quick fillet radius, on the top, and maybe change the appearance of the cover here. You could even set the material, right? So we have a material database. Let's set this as some sort of acrylic or something like that. Just do a search. There it is. Because it will actually show us the the part masses for each of the items here. So the base, these are all solid right now. That's why this thing is so heavy. It's a paperweight right now. So I just go in and shell out both of the parts together. So I'll just shell out that. We'll hide the this, shell that out. You can actually shell multiple parts at once. So this is what we call a part studio in Onshape. A part studio is really a fast, frictionless way of doing designs. I was able to do in-context design right here. I just saved all that weight right there, 1.1 pounds now. And it's right there, ready to go. I have those two parts designed. And now we need to actually make this real, right? So you probably want to create a detailed drawing of that cover. I might have to slide this over the way. We're done with the phone for now. So now it's just gone ahead, created a drawing. Of course, you can make all your drawings exactly the way you would want. So I'll just stick a dimension or two on here to make it look real. It's filling out your properties, just like that. I even set it to be uppercase for the letters here. And I'm ready to share this for production purposes. I want to release the cover at Rev A. You haven't seen me ever hit a save button, no pop-ups, right? Everything's just continuously saving. So what you can do here at this point is now create a special version called a release, which goes through a workflow. And you can create these, all these different types of workflows here in the system that do different things, or use a standard one that we provide. This one is a simple two-stage process, which takes the drawing and the part, stamps them at Rev A. It reminds me that there's a task, related to that. So, I could close out the task, before, approving it. There's a nice task management system in Onshape that will help you understand which activities are completed and not completed. I'll just hit the refresh button on this, and you'll see the task is now going to be completed in this box, because I don't want to complete, my peer review without making sure all the tasks are complete. You can also have automatic part numbering. So there's the part number automatically generated, serial number, right? I might even just type in the drawing number to match, and I'll give it an engineering change order number. Ready to go. And it will be sent out to anybody who's an engineer to sign off on. I'll hit apply, and I'll bring back the phone, because Debbie will have the ability to be part of the peer review process. I should pick a different drawing template that had a nice, rev table, on here. But in here, you can see the ECO just pops right up on Debbie's screen. Ready to go. She could add comments. She could look at it by going into the details, obviously, but I'll just hit the release button. And there it is. See the rev table? Already up to date. I didn't have to do anything. It's just done. Now it's ready to go to Rev A1. That would be the next change that it's fixing to make. And then once you have this, you start building assemblies of parts. So we had the 2 parts already built right here. So we'll add that to the assembly window. We might add some mates to put this together. So one mate, I'm just going to group these parts together. That's essentially fixing it kind of together. I have some other parts that I need to insert from outside of this document. I have a library of motors, right? So I'm going to search for an assembly called motor. So not browsing through folder after folder of things, I'm just going to insert Rev C of that motor, just like that. And I drop it on the origin. I'll just hide the cover here for a second and drop in one more piece. I'm looking for an assembly. Actually, let's search for something that has a certain process. I'm searching for parts that are made of sheet metal, right? So I can just do that search just like that, and I forget the name of the part. Of course, I actually do know the name of the part, but I'm just showing you what's possible here. You can do searches in the database for all sorts of things. Actually, I guess I didn't put the sheet metal label on that part, so I'm just going to search for the actual name. It's the blade assembly. And there it is. I'm inserting Rev A of that blade, right? And the way the mates work in Onshape, the first time you use Onshape, it's almost a little weird when you put parts together because you're looking for coincident and concentric for your mates. But it's much simpler than that. It's almost too simple at first. But I'm going to say I want to move this part from the center of this shape to the middle of that shape. This thing is fully mated now. Come on, right? So, it's, we have these joint style mates. You can still use mates by one face at a time, but why would you when you have these new methods? And there's many other things we'd have to do to this to make it go, but just to, before we take our break to take questions, the bill of materials is right here. It's showing us, the base and the cover. Now I could use the released version of the cover. I could switch to that version, and you'll see what will happen in the tree or on the BOM. So now the BOM is showing me I'm using the released version of the cover. We'll do a structured BOM so we can see all the parts properly. Rev A, Rev D, Rev A1 of the blade. The base is not released yet, so you can mix and match the different release dates, even though I modeled all in the same document. Really quite a nice, thing. Oh, and I just got my wish. The new version of Onshape just deployed while we were in this webinar. So if I go into here, look at this. There's the button right there. What's new in 124? It was 123 when we started the webinar. I couldn't have asked for a better situation, right? I didn't even have to stop and relaunch anything, right? It's already done. And I can see what's new. Click to learn more, and it will bring you to our form. And merci beaucoup. We have the French language support added to the system in this release. More things you can do in drawings for geometric tolerancing. More enterprise improvements, more dashboards, more improvements to the phone version in iOS, right? So our first update of the year, right after coming back from vacation, we just deployed an update. And this will happen every 3 weeks, right? So you can always go to what's new in Onshape here. Of course, we had maybe a little bit longer because of the holiday break. But you can see, well, that was a little out of order there. But you can see the improvements these are all the ones in 2020, right? We're all working from home, by the way, too. All the developers that work at Onshape, most of them are in the Boston area, but there's people all around the world that work at Onshape, and we're all able to do this from home because we're using a modern technology stack that lets us do this. It's really quite amazing. So what you saw here, this was a very basic demonstration just to kind of give you what the thought process is in Onshape. Of course, you're going to have lots of questions, on, how you would implement this at your company. You're not going to be the first ones to do this. There's companies all over the world that have deployed Onshape, well-known names, people that have given us permission to talk about their usage of Onshape include Forum Labs, who is a well-known 3D printer manufacturer. Companies like Google use Onshape, and they're publicly, touting the virtues of Onshape. You can find, if you Google it, you can find stories. Aerospace manufacturers or automotive, I should say, people that make turbochargers, Garrett Automotive, very large deployment of Onshape. So you're not going to be the first ones to dip your toe into this, okay? There's many people around the world using this system. Because of these 6 reasons, they pick Onshape. You can do real-time work, real-time problem solving. You can work together instead of passing the baton from one person to another. You work in this part studio environment where you can create one or more parts together in the context of each other where appropriate. You wouldn't model an entire Boeing 747 in one part studio, but you might model the the flight, in the flight deck, you might find the steering device, and you might model the 3 or 4 parts that relate together in one studio. But this just makes it way easier to design parts that are related to each other. The part studio concept. The assembly, obviously, fast and frictionless, right? No need to look for planes, no need to create 3 or 4 mates per part. It's just one mate usually per part. You have this release management system built in that you saw without having to stand up your own PDM infrastructure. It's just part of the system to release things, Rev A, Rev B, like you see in this menu here, ECO 103B. Sharing, of course, you saw how easy sharing was with Debbie, sharing her into a design. And this whole time, you did not have to install a single thing, right? Didn't crash, right? It's just, it works. And it works like a modern system should, okay? So companies typically get started. You go to Novedge's website. You can obviously, buy it by subscription. It's single user subscriptions. You can buy Onshape Professional, which is a company version, where you'd say, okay, I have 5 users, so you'd buy 5 subscriptions as a company, and you'd all work together as kind of an organization with the same release management system. We even have an enterprise system that goes beyond some of the capabilities of what you have in Professional with those dashboards and analytics, customizable workflows, some other kind of nice things are in there. So it's really easy to get started with Onshape. Just go to Novedge and search for Onshape. You'll find a bunch of stuff there. How are we doing on time?
We're doing good, and if we have just enough time for questions. We have no questions so far, but I encourage everybody to type them in as we wait a few minutes. And wow, we even managed to have a live update during the webinar. I'm speechless.
Yeah, I'm so happy that happened. I am always giddy when I get that opportunity. I mean, it happens 12 times a year. I'm usually doing demos all the time, so we have, updates all the time, but it's nice to see it happen and work well.
I'm glad we're the ones to witness it live. And wow, if this doesn't convince you to try Onshape, I don't know. Yeah, even Google, the makers of Google Docs, embrace Onshape. I mean, I'm not surprised.
Yeah.
So
shouldn't be surprised, right? I mean, it makes a lot of sense. Yeah. So there's tons of success stories out there you can find on the internet.
Yeah, makes sense. So, and everybody's speechless because there are no questions. So I guess, but you were very informative, and so I don't think.
I would say, I mean, what's the best way if people have questions for you in the team at NoVeg, if people are curious and have a question, perhaps?
Well, first of all, we're an online store, but we always have support. So on every page of our website, there's a phone number. Call the phone number, and you'll be directed to our salesperson. Persons that are very knowledgeable, and they can get you all the information you need. And so, as you can see, yeah, every page has a phone number right on top, right next to no veg. You can really reach out anytime, and that's what makes the difference. We think, the website is very easy and intuitive, but sometimes you need to talk to somebody, and we're there for you.
Good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, um,
I was just gonna say, so if people have questions, just email, call in. You
just
know,
just a
they'll
comment.
get the answer.
You
Yeah.
know,
Go ahead.
just a comment. Times for SolidWorks are gone. And I will leave it at that because I didn't say that, but it's an honest comment from an attendee. So I'm going to take the screen back to show
Great.
everybody, like you did, where they can go to find Onshape. And as you said, we have the standard, we have the pro, we have the enterprise, just the whole line.
The
And
training as well.
yeah, and the training. And I
Yeah.
want to thank everybody for attending. And if you want to rewatch today's presentation or share it with some of your team, just go on YouTube and Vimeo and search for No Veg. Have a, oh, okay. We have another comment before I close the
Sure.
broadcast. Impressive product. I'd love to have the kind of communication capabilities for my architectural practice. Indeed, yes, that would be amazing. Something, well, if you're in touch with the developers, maybe do something like that for
Yeah.
architecture.
We
Let's
have
put
some
it out
people
there.
in the architectural world certainly using Onshape, but it's certainly not made exclusively for that
No,
world.
but here's an idea.
But yeah, exactly, for sure. Thank you for that.
Okay, thank you so much for joining us today. Have a great rest of the day. Bye bye, everybody.
All right, bye bye.